So we're here at the Abbey today with Ian Darler, Cambridge United's head groundsman, and we're going to discuss how things are going during the current pandemic. So Ian, you've been here a long time. Tell us how the current issues surrounding COVID-19 and the pandemic has affected you. Tell us what it's like for you in the last few months.
Certainly something that we'd never ever experienced, or nobody really in our generation has. I think every aspect of work that we were used to doing changed. From the first day of lockdown, it became quite evident that we were going to have a minimal number of staff within the stadium. Both myself and Mick Brown were two of the staff that were not furloughed. The stadium became an area of lockdown, so everybody that was in the presence of working at the stadium had a key and had to let themselves in and ensure that all the gates were locked behind us. We were pretty much in quarantine as well. Each member of staff had a different toilet that they would use, a different bathroom that they would use around the ground. It still continues. It was very, very challenging in terms of getting all the safety work done, the pitch maintenance done. Totally different experience to what I'd ever witnessed. I mean, we had a bit of a shutdown in the 80s due to the weather when we didn't play here for several weeks, but you knew the weather would change and we would get playing again. This is obviously different because the virus seems to have got a mind of its own, so challenging.
So what sort of changes have you had to make around the ground in particular and in your own working environment, would you say?
I think every aspect of the job has changed. Firstly, with the pitch. The pitch this year was scheduled to come up. We were due to spend a substantial amount of money on the playing surface. Some of the supporters would have seen at the back end of March when we were playing that there was becoming a variation of colour within the pitch in places, and that's due to the infiltration of meadowgrass, which is POA. And the last thing you want on a sports field is POA. The reason being it's shallow rooting and winter months it cuts up. So we were due to have the whole playing surface up again to strip it of POA, re-establish a new pitch, and we would have been all singing, all dancing, and everybody would have come in and the pitch would have looked pretty amazing. That obviously couldn't happen for two reasons. Firstly, we certainly didn't want to be spending significant amounts of money with no income through the gates. And secondly, there was the problem of most companies had furloughed their staff. So even if we wanted to pursue it, the likelihood is it wouldn't have happened. So we've had to make significant changes within the pitch. It's pretty much, we've gone back to what it was like when I started here in '79, with us doing as much of the work as we possibly could ourselves. But within that, we've spent a peppercorn really of what we were due to spend, but we've had across the board on not just the playing surface but within the stadium as well. Amazing contributions from the people that we use and the contractors that we've used over 30, 40 decades. But I'll perhaps touch on that a bit later. But moving away from the pitch, the stadium itself, we normally finish the season first week in May, and I bombard the stadium for about 3-4 weeks with contractors. So we get all the safety work done, all the inspections done, all the engineering work is done, everything. That obviously changed as well. I was putting out phone calls to try and get people in. Sorry, we haven't got any staff, they're all furloughed. Then another phone call would go, yes, we can come, but we need to come Tuesday. Well, you can't come Tuesday because you need to work in an area where I've already got somebody working. Social distancing, with all of these elements, it was challenging. You describe it really as it's been a circus act. You've had so many balls in the air and you've had to juggle. And then on top of that, there's been all the other aspects of our own personal safety as well. I mean, it's the first time I've had my normal summer tan and I've got white hands, and it is simply through so much sanitizer, wearing gloves, wearing a face mask, trying to ensure that we do everything by the guidance. And I have to say the club have been really supportive with the members of staff across the board.
So obviously talking about close season, How long does it normally take for you to turn the pitch around, and what sort of things do you and Mick get up to in the close season behind closed doors, so to speak, when nobody's here?
I think it depends. The pitch, it depends, because there's two options. I've touched on this year we were due to have contractors in, and pretty much they do everything. So whilst that would normally be going on, myself and Mick are cracking on with the maintenance we need to do, and that can be areas of the terrace where there's bits of loose concrete, we have to break them out, we have to repoint it. All the barriers have to be rubbed down and cleaned annually, so all of those jobs still happen, but we now have an amazing group of volunteers, sort of 10, 12 people to do it. Obviously the volunteers weren't allowed in this year. So every aspect of the work up until 2 weeks ago, myself and Mick had to take on. I think Mick had his first day off last week since lockdown, and I had my first day off last week since lockdown. So we've worked continuously all the way through to ensure that we can get the stadium to the level that is required to enable us to get a safety certificate. And I have to say again, the local authority, trading standards, have been really supportive in that, and they've seen the efforts that we've gone through to get the stadium where it is. But there's so many different aspects when you think we have to have 20% of the electrics tested annually within the stadium. All the gas boilers have to be tested annually. The PA system has to be tested. CCTV has to be tested. General structural inspections for all the barriers, seating has to be looked at, tested. Floodlights have to have the electrics checked, and the lights, lux levels have to be inspected. We have to have a structural engineer in to do an independent assessment on the floodlight columns, and it just goes on and on and on. And like I said, whereas we normally get them in within a 3-4 week period, it's been extended over 12 weeks because of their availability and what we've got going on in the stadium. And then you get the things happen which you just don't foresee. First day of racing at Newmarket, thankfully there was no spectators there. A massive pane of glass drops out the stand. Within 24 hours I get notification from the local authority, you need to have a glazing inspection. We changed our glass in the press box and PA box here about 10 years ago. On the inspection, it was now not compliant with modern day specifications. So all the glasses had to be changed in the PA box. And again, the commitment from our sponsors, our contractors, nearly £3,500 worth of glass done as a contra deal. We didn't pay for the replacement of that glass, the labour. Our fire extinguishers this year service free of charge. Our intruder alarms and works pretty much free of charge. And it's gone on and on. And then when you think back to the pitch, once we knew there was a problem that we couldn't have the contractor in, we'd got to find a way of trying to deal with the meadowgrass within the pitch. So initially I managed to get a load of materials free of charge, which we've used, and then managed to secure a deal with Ernest Doe, who lent us some top quality equipment which enabled us to pretty much strip the pitch 3 weeks ago. We are a long way away from where we need to be. The meadowgrass, what we've killed off, looking at it from where I am now, it looks pretty horrendous still, but I'm confident we will be better off for the work that we've done. But the commitment from everybody in and around the stadium presently, and that includes obviously the supporters who very kindly went out and paid for their season tickets to help keep the club going. But the general thing is that every single person who I've spoke to in form of a contractor or whatever has either done the work for nothing, reduced their costs to help the football club, or just generally helped out across the board. It's been an amazing journey with them all, certainly challenging, but I think we've achieved amazing things through the help of others.
Yeah, it's good to see the goodwill gestures still out there, even in this current climate that's difficult for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, they've really stuck with us at our time of need, and there's the old saying, you get by with your help from your friends, and we certainly have this year.
And can we maybe touch briefly on what the club are looking into in terms of maybe getting fans back into stadiums?
I think again, I think it just shows how well Cambridge United are thought of in terms of safety. Obviously I was one of the longest serving football club safety officers, but when Ian Mather had the opportunity from the EFL and Sports Ground Safety Authority to be one of the clubs to pilot the re-emergence of supporters within the stadium, we jumped at it. We had the initial meetings, and I think we showed that we could deliver to a high level. I think the benefits of having the meeting here and having been the safety officer for 30 years and Andy Pickard, the new safety officer, sat alongside me was supporters will have seen over the past seasons when we've had medical emergencies that we have to use a contingency plan, we have to shut exits off and get people to go in different directions around the stadium. And we feel that we could prove that we could have social distancing with people coming in through turnstiles. And yes, there may be some form of inconvenience to people because they're going to have to potentially follow certain directions to enter the stadium, to leave the stadium, but it's about getting football going again. And if we can get people in the ground and get them into good habits and they appreciate what we're trying to do for the football club and for their benefit, we just hope that what we're putting in place will be accepted by the EFL and the Sports Ground Safety Authority, and we get the go-ahead.
Talking briefly again back on the EFL choosing Cambridge United as a model to kind of assess getting fans back in, what have you had to do? Talk us about kind of what you've had to do in terms of looking into that and what the kind of visions are going forward, if there's any plans in place.
I think it's again, it's every aspect. I mean, a lot of it is still confidential, which I can't talk about.
Yeah.
But it is about being able to show that we can manage the sports ground. Now, there's been talk over the years about, and it's joked about with sort of other parts of the county about the Shabby Abbey. Well, the Shabby Abbey has come into its own because we're fortunate that we don't have concourses. Some football clubs are going to find it challenging with concourses because the flow and the movement within those areas is going to be so limited. We're blessed that we've got extensive areas outside in the open, and that is going to come into our favour. So again, there's plans in place to show that we can open catering units because, for our instance, behind the Habbin stand, we've got a large expanse of area where there's picnic tables, so people can queue up, get their food, go to a picnic table.
Social distance.
They will be put in social distanced areas, and it will work. But we need the commitment from our supporters to ensure that it works and it delivers. And it will be different. It will be certainly challenging for people, but we just need to accept that is the new way we are.
I think with fans, I think they'll appreciate the fact that they can actually come in and watch the team, something they've missed since March, and also it'll be beneficial for them as well as the football club with matchday revenue.
I think one of the things that I'm sure will come out is that each part of the stadium is pretty much, it's going to be zoned, and you will have to come in a certain direction, you will have to leave in a certain direction. So if you consider a 360 racetrack, that's what you're going to have. So if you come in at the 100 metre line, you're going to have to walk round to the 200 metre line.
To leave, sort of thing.
And just, there will be a circle. And as long as everybody follows that and doesn't go against the arrows, it's feasible to be able to manage that social distancing. So that's where we're at the moment, and we're awaiting further response.
Sounds interesting. I thought it'd be nice as well to touch not just on the COVID situation at the moment, but like what you and Mick do close season anyway. Like, just like I've said to you before now, like people don't understand what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, I think one of the important things within the situation with COVID is, as most people appreciate, we have to carry out Legionella checks monthly. We have to take water temperatures of every part of the ground. We have to ensure that the cold water never exceeds 20 degrees. We have to ensure that the hot water always is 50 degrees or 50 degrees plus to ensure safe water conditions. That still applies during the months of COVID when we've had a lockdown in the stadium. So there's also things where we've got bit taps all around the ground that are only used for filling a bucket to clean a T-bar. They all have to be run once a week. So all of these aspects go on whether there's a game or whether there's not. All the gas boilers have to have the temperature checks taken off them. The shower heads in the stadium, dressing rooms, all have to be descaled. All of these elements still carry on, and it's just been strange working in an environment where the only person I would see potentially for 5 to 6 weeks is either Mick Brown or Steve, the accountant.
Yeah.
Whereas normal, it's hustle and bustle, and every element has been different and challenging. But like I said, I think we've risen to the challenge. I think the directors, Ian Maffer, certainly the accounts department deserve a medal, because the work and the ethic that they've put in has been incredible. I've not had one contractor banging on the door asking for payment. It's been a real team effort, and Mark Bonner as well has been so understanding about the pitch and supportive, as has Ben. It's a good crew here now, and there's great expectation that we will have a stadium that will have a first-class safety certificate, potentially have punt supporters back in here quite early on, and we just obviously hope that the players can do the job on the pitch.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But as far as what we've gone through with the virus situation, I just need to say thank you to every single person who's helped us. And
yeah, I just wanted to touch on that, sorry, and briefly. People think that you spend thousands of pounds on the upkeep of the Abbey in terms of the stadium itself and the pitch. Obviously, we're very grateful for the sponsors, aren't we? Like, they kind of help you out every year, don't they, and kind of keep the costs down.
I think, as an example, one of the felt roofs in the stadium here, which is where the old control room used to be on years ago, was completely shot. Our engineer warned us last year that we'd got to do it before he would give us a licence for this year, because obviously that building is still used, its toilets, its catering, and all of that element. Well, the cost to re-roof that was in excess of £3,000. We were very fortunate that Graham Beeson from GB Roofing came in, Ian Greenstock from Kershaw's gave me permission to speak to Pete Bidwell, one of his fabricators, and we hatched a plan, and the total repair of that roof with their help was under £200.
It's crazy.
Like I've already mentioned, the fire extinguishers this year again, and it's not the first time they've done it. As when we went into administration, they very kindly serviced and replaced extinguishers around the ground, no charge. The turnstile monitoring system, 30% reduction. Every element of the stadium, the people that we've used for decades, Dave Mills has been in, has done all the gas boiler servicing free of charge. Not only has he done the free of charge, we had a Legionella assessment done, and there was one or two things that we had to do. We had to put some additional pipe work in with valves on to stop backflows from the washing machine. It's all done. We are blessed with people that have been committed to Cambridge United for decades. And I think I've proved, you came to the dinner for my 40 years service, and it gave me the opportunity to walk around the room, and over 40 years we've had £1 million worth of freebies. Yeah,
the amount of partnerships you've got is amazing, to be honest.
And this closed season again, when I look at what we've had free of charge for the pitch, the other jobs and whatever, we've probably had £20,000 plus worth of freebies in 16 weeks. And they don't need to be doing that. They are just really kind people.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Ian.